नमस्कार। धर्म संस्कृति आध्यात्मिक साधनाको चर्चा गर्ने क्रममा आज हामी फेरि उपस्थित भएका छौँ र आज हाम्रो अतिथिको रूपमा अस्ट्रेलियाबाट पाल्नुभएका जर्ज बार्सेलार हुनुहुन्छ। विगत 40 वर्षदेखि आध्यात्मिक साधनामय जीवनमा आफूलाई समर्पित गरेर उहाँले कश्मीरमा साधनारत हुनुहुन्छ र उहाँ विशेष कामले नेपाल आउनुभएको बखतमा हामीसित कश्मीर, त्यहाँको आध्यात्मिक चिन्तन र परम्पराको बारेमा छोटो चर्चा गर्न जाँदैछौँ। ल उहाँलाई आजको यस कार्यक्रममा स्वागत गरौँ। जर्ज, I welcome you in this show.
Okay, namaskar. Thank you.
So let us start with a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I was very fortunate. I'm from Australia, and I came to the path of yoga when I was only 18. And it was, at first I thought that's an accident, but there are no accidents in the spiritual world. I was introduced to yoga and meditation and vegetarianism. So now I've been doing yoga practice and a vegetarian for more than 50 years, half a century.
Great.
And everything led on to a natural progression. I started transcendental meditation with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who is very popular in Nepal. And from there, I was a teacher of transcendental meditation. And in the 80s, I asked Maharishi permission to come to India, specifically to study Kashmir Shaivism in Kashmir. And Maharishi was very fond of the Shiva Sutras. So he gave me permission. He said, yes, you can go. So I went to Kashmir. I fortunately was accepted as a disciple of Swami Lakshmanjoo, one of the last masters of the oral tradition of Kashmir Shaivism. And I lived in Kashmir full-time for 10 years with him until he left this world in 1991. And since that time, working with John Hughes and Denise Hughes, who were with Swami Lakshmanjoo for many years, 20 years, we have published more than 11, 12 books on the teachings of Kashmir Shaivism based on the oral sampradaya, on the oral tradition, which Swami Lakshmanjoo was the last master in that unbroken link of oral masters. And that tradition goes back more than 5,000 years. We can talk about that a little bit as we move into this interview.
Okay. So because you have, been doing sadhana for more than 40 years in Kashmir, that's a great thing. And in fact, you are lucky to get blessing from the revered sant like Swami Lakshmanjoo. And then because in our informal talk, you had told that you have met several, saints of India. So we'll talk about them later. But please elaborate a little bit on Shaivism.
Okay. So the word that's common today, which is thrown out, is Kashmir Shaivism. But that word didn't really come up until 1911. Before that, you have to go back to the origin of Kashmir Shaivism, which we have in one of the Shastras, it's actually an Agama called the Shiva Drishti of Somananda, who was a master around 800 Christian era, 800 BC, or we could say, not BC, but CE. He wrote a book called the Shiva Drishti, and at the end of it, he outlined the lineage, going back to the beginning of Kali Yuga. And this lineage, the main custodian of Shaivism for the duration of Kali Yuga, which everybody knows is 432,000 human years, of which we're 5,000 years already past, was Durvasa Rishi, who was the Krama Guru of Lord Krishna. So Durvasa Rishi was entrusted to look after Kashmir Shaivism, not Kashmir Shaiva, but Shaivism, in all of its three things, its monistic system, dualistic system, and monodualistic system. The monistic system was prevalent in Kashmir. But Durvasa couldn't find any, at the beginning of Kali Yuga, he couldn't find any people eligible to understand what had to be taught. So he created 3 mind-born sons, Manasputra.
Yeah, okay.
And from that, Trayambakanatha created a mind-born daughter and son, and this went on, these mind-born went on for 15 generations. And then one saint, who was one of the mind-born sons, it's said that his consciousness became a little bit shrunken. So he couldn't create a mind-born son. So he went to the valley of Kashmir and he found a Brahmin girl and he asked the father for her hand in marriage. I think that was Sangamaditya. And that was the first father-to-son continuation of the tradition. And it's around about this time, around about 850, that separate from the tradition, one saintly person, Vasugupta, is very famous. Vasugupta was looking back at the traditions in Kashmir Shaivism, which had become very much orientated towards Buddhism and the Pancharata system, Vaishnavism and Vedanta. They had a very strong hold, and he felt that Shaivism was really slipping away. He prayed to Shiva in the form of Srikantanatha. Shiva appeared to him in a dream. He said, go to a place in Kashmir, just out of Srinagar, and on a rock you'll find my sutras written. Memorize those sutras and teach them around. So he went to this rock. He didn't find anything. There was a big rock by a stream. So he thought maybe it was just a dream. But when he touched the rock was as big as a house. It turned up. And underneath that rock, he saw the Shiva Sutras. He memorized those, and from that was the origin of the Shiva Sutras. And the Sampradaya, he was outside of the direct oral tradition, but masters within the tradition quickly picked that up, that this is a new revelation. Because in the Shiva Sutras, what Shiva was pointing out was, if the first sutra, Chaitanya Atma, everything is made of consciousness, and therefore you don't need anything outside. You're also made of consciousness. And essentially the Shiva Sutra said that you are Shiva yourself. You are Shiva, but you've forgotten. You've forgotten who you are. So Vasugupta wrote the Shiva Sutras. He propagated the Shiva Sutras. Then he wrote a commentary called the Spandakarika. From that, great masters like Utpaladeva, and especially Abhinavagupta, the great master of 1200 years ago, or more than 1,000 years ago actually, they used those sutras saying these are the words from Shiva, this is what we should be teaching, this is what we should be understanding. So everything from there became a monistic tradition. And that differentiated the Shaivism from Kashmir, from even Shaiva Siddhanta, from southern Shaivism, which was more ritualistic based. So Kashmir Shaivism said, okay, rituals are okay. If that's what brings you closer to God, do rituals. If that doesn't bring you closer to God, then do something else. You should feel the bhava. You should feel that bhav from whatever you're doing. So the more emphasis was towards meditation.
Okay.
So from Abhinavagupta's time up until the present day, the lineage has always passed this tradition on as a monistic tradition. Abhinavagupta's chief disciple, Khemaraja, he wrote commentaries on many of the texts. He was a prolific writer and prolific commentator, on so many major texts. The Swachanda Tantra, for instance, which is popular in Nepal. And as a sideline, I would say it's exciting for me to be talking in Nepal because you have a library of manuscripts related to Kashmir Shaivism, probably the biggest library of manuscripts in the world. I think there's more than 30,000 manuscripts related to Shaiva Tantra. And many scholars have come here and they've looked at these and they've found links direct links, of course, to Kashmir Shaivism. So.
Okay, so actually the word Kashmir,
yes,
it describes a lot.
Yes.
When we look back, so in the time of Sankaracharya,
yes,
there was Sarada temple, Sarada Peeth.
Yes.
And then so sadhakas would live there and all these things. But nowadays, so the main question I have here is the Kashmir Shaivism that you just described, it's only based on one sampradaya thing, or it's based on the Vedic practices that has been coming from thousands of years?
Yeah.
And because the same kind of practices related to spiritual understanding is in Nepal and in southern India, like
Yes.
you just said. Because most of the puja and yajnas are based on Rudra Paddhati related to Bhagavan Shiva.
Yes, yes.
And because we'll talk this later, but we have Bhagavan Pashupatinath, and then we have southern priests doing Bhagavan Pashupatinath's puja established by Adya Guru Shankaracharya.
Mm.
So please clarify a little bit on
Okay.
this.
Yes, yes. See, the teachings and even the practices of Kashmir Shaivism date back pre-5,000 years.
Mm.
I mentioned Abhinavagupta, the great illustrious master, who was, according to Swami Lakshmanjoo, he was just Shiva incarnated. And he wrote what's called an encyclopedia of Tantra called the Tantra Loka.
Tantra Loka, yeah.
So it is Tantra Aloka. It is throwing lights,
Yes.
on this tradition of Tantra that was prevalent in Kashmir, because he was in Kashmir, he was Kashmiri, and he had the text. So his main text that he drew from was called the Malini Vijayottara Tantra.
Yes.
That comes from a much larger text. That is a distillation, that's maybe 1,200 verses, distilled down from 12,000 verses, and then taken from a crore of verses from what's called the Siddha Yogeshwari Tantra, Siddha Yogeshwari Mata. All of these tantras emphasize the concept of Trika Shaivism. Trika, three aspects: para, para, and apara. Or Supreme Devi, medium, inferior. Or Icha Jnana Kriya. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. That triad filters down all the way through Shaivism. So Abhinavagupta really pushed this emphasis that Trika is like an umbrella that is basically has every other tradition underneath, including all the traditions.
Okay.
Christianity, Buddhism, everything comes under this umbrella of this three. In Christianity, you have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Okay.
So this Trika system is very unique to Kashmir Shaivism. On the question about practices, one text of practice was the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very famous one.
And the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra is very famous today. Mahesh Yogi was very interested. In fact, that's one of the reasons he went to Kashmir to meet Swami Lakshmanjoo. He wanted to study with Swamiji the Shiva Sutras and the Vijnana Bhairava. In essence, Vijnana Bhairava, which is a Tantra, was Bhairavi asking Bhairava. As you always have these beginnings, on Kailash, they met and Bhairavi asked this, or Parvati asked this to Shiva. She said, how does a common person, realize who you are? How do they realize Bhairava? So Bhairava said, actually, in one way it's very easy, and another way it's very difficult. Because you are already Bhairava. Everybody is Shiva. Shiva is manifesting in the hearts of all living beings, from the mosquito up to Brahma.
Yeah.
But we have forgotten. So it's very difficult for people just to sit still, do nothing, and realize I'm Shiva. Hamsa soham.
Yeah.
He said, I will give you 112 practices, 112 different techniques to realize who you are. And he did 112, and they all related to people at different levels. Some people at a very low level should have mantra and watch breath and do this. Some at a more elevated level could just have some vague bhavana, and that would take them to more understanding. And some at a very elevated level would have to do practically nothing. All based on, once you realize this one-pointedness, the natural outcome of that is the rise of Kundalini Shakti. A big part of Kashmir Shaivism. In fact, Kashmir Shaivism places great emphasis on the rise of Kundalini. Okay. Not in the way it's done in Shankara's Shatchakra Nirupana, not with chakras. They are wheels, but they spin instead of just being like lotuses and with letters and petals. They dynamically spin, or this Kundalini Shakti rises directly. After giving 112 practices, Bhairavi, impatiently, she said, okay, 112, just give me the essence. What is the essence of all these practices? And that the verse that Bhairava quotes is the verse of your breath. Every living being is breathing 21,600 times a day. That's 2 seconds in, 2 seconds out, for the average person. At the turning points of these breaths is the doorway into your own state of consciousness. Into your state. If you want to go into samadhi, that's the doorway into samadhi. If you want to realize your nature and how you are expanded in the world, go into that junction point between inward and outward breath. So he said, Swami Lakshmanjoo said, okay, let's say 21,600, but nobody's awake for that. Let's say you sleep 12 hours. So 10,800 breaths in a day, you can be aware of your own nature. So breath practice was very, pran apan, and not excluding, saman, udan, and beyond, the other three pranas, but pran apan practice was prevalent in Kashmir.
Okay. And what about yoga practices?
Yoga asana was not so prevalent.
Okay.
In fact, Abhinavagupta, in his Tantra Loka, he said, whereas in Patanjali's system you have Ashtanga Yoga, you have 8 limbs.
Yes.
In Kashmir Shaivism you have only 6.
Okay.
And the yam and niyam, the rules and regulations and observances, the vidhi is understood. You should have somebody for starting this practice, which is very powerful practice, should already be quite a integrated, self-disciplined person. That's a prerequisite for entering this path. Otherwise, if you give some energy to a thief or to a person who's undisciplined, it will make them more undisciplined. Shakti works that way. Shakti is Shakti, it's energy.
Yes.
So Kashmir Shaiva had a very thing, and for that, even the gurus had the 4 steps: Samya Diksha, Putraka Diksha, Acharya, then Sadhaka Diksha, and Acharya Diksha. There were 4 stages that the guru would initiate somebody and watch, see what is the effect, before going on to the next more subtle practice.
Okay, and then in our system we have Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi.
Yes.
And please elaborate a little bit about whether the same practice prevail in...
This is a really, really important question, because in Kashmir, Kashmir Shaivism, as it's called today, and remember that name only came up in the beginning of about 1911, when all the texts were gathered in Kashmir. And the first text that was published by the king of Kashmir under the auspices of the research department of Jammu and Kashmir was called the Kashmir Shaiva Text and Studies. It was Shiva Sutras. And the man who put it together, Chatterjee, he wrote a book next to that called Kashmir Shaivism. And that was the first time it was called Kashmir Shaivism. Before that it was Trikadarshana, Trika Sampradaya, it was Anuttara Kula, it was Pratyabhijna Darshana. It had so many names, but it was never called, but it was contained within Kashmir. But now look at Nepal. How does Nepal have so many manuscripts? Even in Kerala, the Nambodari tradition of they are still doing rituals in tune with Kashmir. And they have a temple of 12 Kalis, 12 Kali temples. So it went there, it went to Tamil Nadu, it went to other places more than 1,000 years ago. And the theory is, although I'm not a historian, I'm not a scholar in that sense, I'm a practitioner and I'm still learning, but in a sense, all of these manuscripts possibly came to Nepal, many of them would be here, during the Mughal time of Kashmir, from 1300 up to 1800. 500 years Kashmir was ruled by Mughal rulers, and many of the manuscripts were burnt, many of the temples were desecrated at that time. And at that time, it's very possible that many of those manuscripts were sent to here, and then they had Sharda script. It would have been rewritten into Nawari, And now you have all of these manuscripts by scribes that just, because that's what people had a job as a scribe.
Yeah, they would transcribe,
They would transcribe it.
Okay, and then because we have read many books, like from Abhinavagupta, and the most famous one is on the last part of the Chandi Tavajaka Kilana Stuti Rambike Sakala Sabdamai Kilate Tanu Nikhila Murti Sume Bhavadan Vayo Manasuja. So like this. And Tantra Loga is also very famous. So in Kashmir, it's still people are practicing this in a
Yes.
mott, or only some people are practicing. How is the condition now?
Well, you mentioned before about the 4 ashramas.
Yeah.
In Kashmir, it wasn't so strict. Of course, there was a time, but Kashmir was a householder tradition. In those days, outside of Shankara's group that were there were no sannyasins there. It was a householder tradition. So you could be a householder, you could be married and still doing all of these practices. Women could practice. There was no restriction of caste, creed, color, or gender in Kashmir Shaivism. And some of the great saints of Kashmir were ladies. Well, Triambaka, his first manifested mind-born was Ada Triambaka, his daughter. Ada Triambaka. So half of my father's name. And then another brother was Triambaka Aditya. The ladies' tradition is a very elevated tradition. And then there are saints within the Kashmir tradition, even later contemporary saints, Lal Ded, and this, what's her name? There's a temple there which I go to so often, but I've just actually forgotten the name of the Devi. So ladies' tradition was always prevalent in Kashmir.
Okay.
But it was very hidden. It was very hidden. They prefer to remain more underground, not propagating.
Okay.
But Swami Lakshmanjoo told me once that the Ada Triambaka tradition is still alive today. This was in 1987, 88. It's still flourishing, but it's just one lady master and one lady disciple. And when that master dies, the disciple becomes the guru. And she said it's unbroken for nearly 5,000 years. And I said to him, well, would you find these people? He said, no, they would remain hidden unless you were very graced, they may appear to you.
And because we read in different books, now there are no real Shaiva. And because we read about Kapaliks also.
Yes.
And because the practice in Kashmir Shaivism, so they are related to Kaul practice, or what can we...
There's 4 traditions.
Yes.
There's a Spanda tradition, the Krama tradition, there's the Kaula tradition or Kula tradition, and there's the Pratyabhijna tradition. Each of these is for aspirants at different levels. So in Spanda system, it's very much to do with practice, breath awareness. You try to find the junction between 2 things that are going on, especially the junction between inward and outward breath, this turning point. In Krama system, you find the junction between 2 perceptions. I'm looking at you now, and then I can look over here at the camera. I can look there. There's a junction between me shifting. That's how subtle the person's awareness is. In the Kaula tradition, that person's awareness is so expanded, they don't have to find it. They're already centered in an expanded state of consciousness. And in Pratyabhijna means self-recognition. That's a spontaneous experience where you just suddenly realize, oh, hold on, I thought I was ignorant, but actually I'm Shiva. That comes from anugrah, grace. The grace that comes from within us, not from outside somewhere. That's a spontaneous revelation. So in that sense, these traditions are there. There is a difference. There's a difference. And once, in India it's prevalent that at the end of your life, in the traditional sense, you give up Grahast ashram and you enter Vanaprasth.
Right.
You go to the forest, you live in a hut. There's still people do that. They give everything up. They give all their thing. They write a will, give it to their sons, and then the parents go off somewhere and live in a Gurukula or live somewhere quiet. One man had written some books about this. He came to Swami Lakshmanjoo one day. He was in his 80, I think he was 80 years old. He sat before Swami Lakshmanjoo. He said, Swami Lakshmanjoo, I'm so happy to be here. And I want to tell you that my wife and I, we've just entered Vanaprasth. We've just entered that. And we're very happy now. We can do something. And Swamiji looked and he said, well, actually in Kashmir Shaivism, you should practice when you're young. He said, why? He said, and then this man said, but we've given up the world. Swamiji said, yes, but the world has given you up too. Your world has given you up. There's no joy in the world. So he said, in Kashmir Shaivism, your serious practice starts during the period of brahmachari. And if you practice sincerely for that period of time, by the time you enter grast, you're established in consciousness.
Yeah.
And that will continue for your whole life. And then there's no question of Vanaprasth. There's no question of changing them because you've already achieved the goal of Vanaprasth. He said, this is quite a difference.
What is the difference in between the objectives of different tradition?
Okay, if you look at spirituality throughout India, you will find that 99% is based on renunciation.
Yes, renunciation.
In order for me to achieve something in the spiritual world, I have to give something up. I either have to give up my love of coffee, which I've just given up, in fact, but that's another story. Or I need to give up my attachment, neti, as Shankara, So there is a strong idea that in order to achieve something, I have to renounce the world. Kashmir Shaivism is the exact opposite. It says you can't renounce the world. Because whatever you renounce, when you go away, you find a cave to meditate, for years and years you'll think about all the things you left behind.
So you can't renounce, or you do not need to renounce?
You don't need to, and also it's very difficult. Also, it's very, very difficult.
Okay.
And Shankara knew this. That's why he set up these boundaries for sannyas. And once you take sannyas, your family, you renounce your family, you renounce
So
you renounce women, you renounce gold, you renounce so many things in order for you to be able to sit in samadhi and go into samadhi without any vikalpa.
So in Tattva Bodha, you have clearly explained some of them are the various rules and regulations, and then gradually you know.
Yes. So Kashmir Shaivism says no. Actually, if we believe that there is only one Paramatma, Shiva, and that he has created the universe through his Shakti, and you are also part of that creation, then the universe must be also vibrating with all this spanda, this energy of Shiva. So great emphasis was placed on practice, not only sitting in meditation or in your puja room, but practicing in action.
Okay, so then it relates to the same condition that Veda's Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma, and Ayamatma Brahma, because...
Yes. Well, you see, here's the thing. Great yogis, they pulled back the cover of that. For instance, everybody knows the thing, neti. You should think that not this. And you should eliminate I, even from your sentences. Some of them say never use a sentence, never start a sentence with I, because you're just reinforcing that your ego. Now, so there are all these practices, and you can go through Vedanta, you can go through Shaiva Siddhanta, all of those. You can find so many practices. Now, one great yogi of South India that everybody knows from Tamil Nadu, Ramana Maharshi. Raman Maharshi.
Arunachalam.
He said, okay, you can do all these practices, but let's get back to the base. Just ask, who am I? Don't try to analyze the I and do this. I'm not this, neti. Just ask yourself one simple thing. Who am I? And that is answered, actually, in Southern Shaiva. It's a very interesting point in practice. In Southern Shaivism, they have the mantra, even on breath, it is Hamsa. I am Shiva.
They have Ajapa Gayatri also,
They have that, but Hamsa is emphasized as one of the main practices. Kashmir Shaivism turns it around and says, no, when you practice it should be Soham. To saying, I am Shiva, when in my mind, I know I'm not Shiva, I'm George. I sit down to practice, I am Shiva. Better to turn it round and Soham, Shiva is me.
Yeah.
You know, that way, but I think it was Ramana Maharshi, he said another beautiful thing. He said, when you want to find out where is Shiva, think that Shiva lives in you as you. Shiva doesn't live in you as this great being with a trishula and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Shiva lives in you as you. Shiva has adopted your life
Mm.
and hidden himself in the recess of your heart with his Shakti. And the whole process of spirituality is the unfolding of Shiva coming out.
Yeah.
So in most practices, for instance, people sit down, they want to achieve something. In Kashmir Shaivism, you practice to unachieve the notion, the false notion that you're limited. You practice to unachieve this state of avidya, of ignorance.
Then we can call it being than doing.
Yes, it's being rather than becoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, most traditions are, you know, I have a state of being and I have to become something in order to realize that. Kashmir Shaiva says, no, just stay in the state of being.
Mm.
Don't go anywhere. You're already Shiva, but you've forgotten. So you have to do some practice in order to remember, pratyabhijna, to remind yourself who you are. And that comes through in some of the most universal mantras. Karpura Goram Karanavataram, Samsara Saram Bhujagendraharam, Sadarvasantam Hridayara Vinde Bhaham Bhavani Sahitam Namami. Shiva and Shakti are always related. They're always existing in your heart. And how has it happened? It's happened by the grace, by the karana of Shiva, who is, you know, white as can, we can say that. And how did he do that? Karpura Goram Karanavataram, Samsara Saram, Bhujagendraharam, through the garland of Brahman, which is this serpent, Bhujagendra. So we all have that serpent in Muladhara. 3.5 coils. Tantric teachers will know this. They understand what we're talking about here. The common person will have to understand that all of the energy, all the kundalini, all the shakti is already there inside. It's waiting to get out. The only obstacle is that we either don't want it to come out, we're caught up in the world of this and that, and we see the world as different from ourselves.
Plus we are, in the illusion of, Maya.
Yeah, we're in the illusion of Maya, but Maya is just Lord Shiva's trick of how he and Shakti, he and Parvati, came down into the world. How did you become, Shyam? How did I become George? If I'm really Shiva inside, why don't I realize that? Because I've forgotten my nature. And there's actually no technique except Shiva waking up within you and guiding you. And this is the journey of the spiritual path. Yeah. You asked my first question, how did you get involved? At 18, somebody came and said, you should do yoga.
Right.
I had no idea. I'm from Australia. I was surfing, I was playing music, I was having a good time. I was a teenager.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, it made sense. Wow, what is this yoga? And I was just bending my body like I'd never had before. I was just good at sports, and it felt really good. I can say that person actually told me, but then I can say, okay, then maybe this was the time that Shiva was ready to open up and wake up.
Okay.
And from there, I started on my spiritual path.
Okay, so but that means you have realized the blessings of Guru in each and every point, so that you move toward it closer and closer.
And who is the Guru?
Yeah.
Because Shaivism has 6 limbs of yoga, not Ashtanga, Sharanga, 6 limbs. And the most important limb is called Tarka, or Pratibha. Your own internal intellectual knowledge that guides you not only in the spiritual world, but in day-to-day life. We all have an intellectual understanding. We all have a way of seeing the world. The world is the same for everybody. This room is the same for everybody in this room. But each of us might see it differently.
Yeah, because of perception plus...
Perception and everything. Yeah. So this tarka it's transcendental logic. Patanjali called it Ritambara Pragya. The sprouting of this internal knowledge which guides us through our life. That's the real Guru. Guru is there to put you on that. to connect you with your own pratibha, your own intellectual, internal intuition, and from there your spiritual path will start.
And okay, because you have met many revered saints from India, like Devraha Baba, Anandamayi Ma, Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, and many other saints.
Yes.
So, what common element do you find among them, so that layman can understand or can receive from their lila? Let's
One
say.
unique quality that I found in what I call real saints. They always made you feel full in yourself. They never made you feel dependent upon them. They never wanted your money. They just wanted that you should feel full within yourself. Of course, some of them had big organizations which had to survive, so finances had to be there. Like Mahesh Yogi, he taught so many people around the world, and you set up centers. So you had to do something to support yourself. But the main thing with these real saints like Anandamayi Ma, Devraha Baba, even Shankaracharya of Kanchi, who I met just briefly,
Vijayendra Saraswati.
the very revered, and one saint in Gangotri, Nagababa.
Yeah.
All of these saints, when you left them, you felt full in yourself. You felt complete. So what they did was they made you realize that you are complete within yourself. Whatever path you were on, they never said, "Oh, come and join me.
Yeah.
Do this, do that." They knew at a glance what was your path. And Swami Lakshmanjoo was a master at this. He always made you feel expanded, not contracted, not shrunken.
And because you served Swamiji for more than 10 years.
I was very lucky that I got accepted by him as a disciple. And to be honest, I went there because I wanted to have knowledge. I wanted to have, but my purpose of getting knowledge was wrong. I wanted power. I wanted to be able to talk and influence people and impress people. So when I went there, he asked me to come after I was there for 1 week. Second week I came, he said, "Come and see me privately." And I thought, oh my gosh, this is, people told me this is a great privilege if he asked you to come and see him, because he was a very private person. He had public darshan only once a week on Sunday. The rest of the week he was in very recluse mode at his ashram. It was like his house. So I went to see him and he asked me, "Okay, tell me your background." And I told him I did this. I thought I'll tell him, I started yoga when I was 18. I met Mahesh Yogi, everything. He seemed to be listening. And then then he said, "What about your education?" I went to school and I became a civil engineer. He said, "Whoa, civil engineer, good. Do you know building? He said, "Most engineers, they only know theory. Do you know practice? Can you paint? Can you do woodwork? I said, "Yeah, I can do all that. I learned that from my father." Then he said, "Good. Come tomorrow. I have some work for you."
Okay. Yeah.
So for the next 9 years, I worked in the ashram. I pruned trees. I demolished an old cow shed to build a havanshala.
Like in various Puranas,
Yeah.
the Acharya allowed the disciples to do a lot of, ashram works.
Yeah.
And by the same time, he will learn and then he will be blessed.
And it was a way of just subsiding my incorrect approach.
Okay.
Incorrect approach to the spiritual path. Because, and I soon realized immediately that I didn't know anything. Whatever I had learned, I'd learned some Sanskrit. I had a good background of just understanding the alphabet and Sanskrit. I could read Sanskrit fluently. I'd studied the different levels of yoga, of Vedas with Maharishi, 6 systems. And I thought I knew a lot. But once I started working in the ashram, without him telling me anything, I realized I didn't know anything. I realized I was really empty. And when I accepted my own emptiness, then I started to learn something. Up until then, whatever I had read, I'd read some books by Swamiji, this Secret Supreme, the first book he did in English. But I was comparing everything I read with what I already knew.
Yeah.
So I wasn't learning, I was just comparing.
Right.
I wasn't absorbing anything, and
you have opened a great secret. Because most of us feel the same way. Because we read a lot of books, but because we have already preoccupied understanding, so basically we only compare those things with our experience. And
Yes.
so, but what would you recommend? Like general people, everybody, a person who know what is moksha
Yes.
and what we should make objective of. So, but they are confused of the different path.
Yes.
So because now you have done sadhana for more than 50 years, and then you have had the experience of, blessings from different sadhus as well, and then practice as well, and because you are a regular meditator. And then please add something on the importance of regular meditation.
Yes.
So, yes.
Well, everybody approaches or enters the spiritual path at a different level. There is no one set program for everybody.
Yes.
And if somebody goes to the temple, like we visited this beautiful temple just close by here,
Yes.
and the vibration in that temple is strong. People get some bhava of that. So if that brings you joy and it makes your life better, then that's part of your sadhana.
Yeah.
And from that, people usually evolve. Some people do that for their whole life. They're happy. They don't need any more than that. Just go to the temple every day, and that. Then others, like people start the course of yoga. Yoga is so popular, around worldwide now. It's a household word.
Yeah. Yoga have become yoga.
Yeah, yoga.
Yeah.
So people do that, and then somebody at a yoga class says, "Have you ever read Patanjali?" Or "Who's Patanjali?" Well, he's the founder of Ashtanga Yoga. He's the founder of this. Oh, really? Give me a book. I'll read it. And then they read that book, and at first it's very baffling. What are all these different things? What are the pranas? But it somehow strikes some note. So that person moves from just plain asana. He's moving into pranayama, to pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and eventually samadhi. It's a process that happens, as Mahesh Yogi used to say, it's like a chair. You grab one leg and pull it, and all the others follow. And after 1 or 2 years, a person finds himself, oh, now I'm practicing meditation, whichever practice. So you get led onto that. And it's a mysterious journey. But Abhinavagupta said a beautiful thing. No matter who you are, you could be elevated soul, you could be ignorant completely. One step on the spiritual path with sincere conviction, with something in your heart that you really want to find something, you think it's out there, you don't know it's inside, but one step on the path, the job is done. And from that, if it's sincere, then Shiva and Shakti will open up your heart, and they will send the people to oh, have you seen this book? Or you're at a library, you're looking for some other book, and it happened to a friend of mine. He said he went to the library looking for a specific book on yoga. He was in Los Angeles, and he was just on this day, and suddenly a book fell out from somebody pushed a book back in the other side. It fell in his hands, and it was a book by Swami Lakshmanjoo.
Okay.
It fell into his hands, and he went, oh, what is this? And he sat down and he read it from cover to cover. It was just a small booklet on practice, and that was his start. So it's different for everybody. But everybody should do something. The most precious commodity that we have is time.
Yes.
And the time you can give to others and help others is very important. And the time you can give, if you have spare time, to help yourself on your spiritual path. So take the time. If you've learned to meditate, take the time to meditate. We were talking this morning, in the 70s, 74, Maharishi came here. He initiated, or 24,000, 25,000 people were initiated. And Nepal has one of the biggest populations of meditators.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk something about Nepal.
Okay.
So what made you come to Nepal for the first time? And because I have met you several times while you are here.
Yes.
And then I assumed that you have come here for a special purpose.
This time I came for my visa purpose.
Okay.
The first time I came was in 1990 with Swami Lakshmanjoo.
Okay.
He came to Nepal to meet with some disciples who were living in America, but they had some difficulty getting back into India. So they couldn't get in, so he came to Nepal to meet halfway. And we lived in a house just out of Kathmandu for 1 month.
Okay.
And during that time, it was very interesting. He was here with his own nephew, who's now the head of his ashram in India, Mr. Inda Krishan Raina, very dear friend of mine. Swamiji and he, they went to Pashupatinath. And Swamiji said, no, you wait here, we're going to Pashupatinath. And the next day he came back and he said, you know, they don't allow Western people to come. If you're not a Brahmin, if you're not this, so you can't go inside. He said, but you shouldn't be offended. I want to take you there. So we thought he was taking us there. Maybe we'll go inside. We didn't know. But we walked right past the entrance. We walked over the bridge. We went around the back where the little Nali is.
On the eastern side. That's Bagmati. Yeah.
Bagmati. And we sat there. And Swamiji had a bag with him. We didn't know what he had in the bag. And he put down a blanket. And he had a picture of, Swachanda Bhairava, I think it was. And we did puja.
Oh.
We sat outside the temple. We went down, got some water from the stream.
That's close by to the Arya Ghata.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we sat there behind the temple, and here we were doing, from our point of view, you should always think that your guru, whoever that is, Shiva, we were doing puja with Shiva. Pashupati was there, probably enjoying, the devas and the deities. It was very powerful. We sat there, we did a puja for an hour. Then Swamiji gave us all tilak. He said, job is done. You've been to Pashupatinath.
Okay. Great.
And he has enjoyed our puja. And then we walked back through the marketplace, and he stopped and he looked at some of the mala shops and everything. And
have you visited any other tirthas like with Swamiji or later?
No. During that time, Swamiji was very one-pointed on doing a translation of Abhinavagupta's Bhagavad Gita. And we have that whole thing on, we have that on video. And since the beginning of COVID, we've been having every week, once a week on Saturdays from the US and from here. I'm part of the panel of John Hughes, Denise Hughes, myself, his daughter, and my wife, Claudia Dosa. We have an online group. It's a free Sangha.
Okay.
Every Saturday, it's 8 o'clock in California in the morning, Saturday morning. It's 8:30 in India. It's 8:45 here in Nepal.
Okay, yes. If people want to get connect, how to?
They can go to what's called Lakshmanjoo Academy website.
Okay.
Lakshmanjooacademy.org. It's just Swamiji's name. If you go online, you can look up Lakshmanjoo, and his websites will come up. There's 2 websites for India and 1 for US.
Great. So yeah, people can connect themselves.
They can connect. They register. We had about 750 people registered originally, and there's now regularly 100 or more people every week, and then another 100 or more watch the replay.
Okay.
And if people go online, they get access to all the replays for the last 4.5 years.
Yeah, and so now you are here in Nepal in the month of Shravan.
Yes.
And perhaps you are aware of this, that okay, the Shravan is the month of Bhagavan Shiva's yajnas and the Rudravishek, and then lot of ladies wearing green dress, and so perhaps you are aware of it. So similar kind of practices in Kashmir, or it's
Yes, not so much. Like you mentioned before, today's Nag Panchami.
Yeah.
Very special day in Nepal, also in Kashmir, because in Kashmir there's so many ponds, there's so many water. Every temple has one, and every temple is said to have its own Nag there.
Where Bhagavan Shiva is, Shivaji, Vasuki Nag is there.
Exactly. So Kashmir, it recognizes these things. They have their own jantri. Each day, what is the tirthi of the moon, what to do.
Yeah, you're talking about Panchanga. Yeah.
I'm talking about Panchanga, and I'm talking about, there's 5 days of what is it, the 5 days of Panchami.
And like what brata do you perform, like Ekadashi brata, Pradosh brata?
Well, there's two things. There's people who feel the need to follow that astrologically. And then Abhinavagupta has written that, but you can do that externally, but internally all the planets are there.
Okay.
In your body. They're like the strings which the puppeteer is doing and running you around the world. He's pulling this string here, he's pulling this string here. And this is what we talked about when we had the lecture at the university. This Matrika Chakra. The Devis, Matrika Devis, Brahmi, Shambhavi or Maheshwari, Kaumari, Ashtadevis. Each of them is also the custodian of a planet. So you have Shukra, you have Soma, you have Yama, you have Mangala, you have Rahu, you have Shani, Ketu. All these planets are there connected to your body, and especially to the limbs of your body.
Yatha pinde tatha brahmande.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You know, Namasuriyaya Somaya Mangalaya Buddhayascha Guru Shukra Shanibhyascha Rahave Ketave Nama. Those planets are all radiating from your own heart. There's a very great story about Swamiji's Grand Master. He was once sitting with a great astrologer, Kashukak. And this astrologer was so accurate. His predictions were so, even the king was afraid to go to him in case he said something bad and it would happen.
That would happen. Okay.
But one day he was there. A lady was pleading. She said, please help me. I'm a widower. I have one son. He's not so bright. Please do something. She showed him his Rashi, his Kundali. The astrologer looked at it. He said, no, this boy, no, he's a duffer. He's stupid. You know, he has no brain. Nothing will happen for him. And the lady started weeping. What will I do? How will I earn? Who will look after me in my old age? And Swami Ram was there. He was hidden saint. Nobody knew that he was, you know, Paramatma. He said to the astrologer, no, help her. Give her something. Give her some basam. Give her some yantra. Give her some puja.
Some remedy, yeah.
And the astrologer, he looked, everybody got a shock. How he's questioning this great astrologer. He said, no, his chart is so bad, you can't do, there's nothing you can do, nothing, no remedy. And he asked, he said, what is wrong? He said, well, Shani and this Brihaspat, they are in the worst position, but if they were reversed, this boy could become the prime minister, or the secretary at least. So Swami Ram said, okay, reverse it. Everybody got a shock. See, what could you do? He said, give me his kundali. He said, give me a pen. And he crossed out Shani, and he put Brihaspat. He crossed out Brihaspat, he put Shani. He looked at it like this, he rolled it up, he gave it to the lady, he said, never open this again. He tied it. Never open this again, your son will become great. That boy became what's called a Diwan of Kashmir. He became chief secretary to the prime minister, under the king. Swami Lakshmanjoo said, this is what saints know about. They can see how the planets are functioning.
Yes.
They can give you the direct remedy. They can even change your kundali. They can change the position of the planets. That's a great thing. But you have to be a siddha, a mahasiddha to do that.
Okay, so you said you came to Nepal for the first time in 1990 with Swami Lakshmanjoo. So what made Swami Lakshmanjoo bring to Pashupatinath?
I think he was attracted. It's known. It's well known, you know. And there's a very strong connection in Nepal with the Swachanda Tantra, for Swachanda Bhairava, you know, Swachandanatha, also known as Agoranatha. So I think he respected the vibration of the temple. He himself went inside, as I said, but we did puja on the other side. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made it a big deal to go there. It was his first trip outside of India, in fact. It was the first time Swami Lakshmanjoo had ever left India as a whole and come to Nepal. He didn't feel there's a difference. He said, you know, it's like that. But you see, Swachandanatha is very revered in Nepal. In fact, Madhav has just told me that he found a manuscript, a Nawari manuscript of Swachanda Tantra here. In Kashmir, it's one of the two gotras, Swachanda and the Netra Tantra. So those two tantras are the most important. And before he left this world, in about a year and a half before Swami Lakshmanjoo, nearly 2 years before he left this world, in 1989, Swami Lakshmanjoo had a very intense 1 month of experience, which he said was very difficult for him to describe. But Swachandanatha, in the form of Lord Shiva with 18 arms and 5 faces, Panchamukhi, he appeared to Swamiji. And he actually gave Swamiji direct darshan. And that's unusual because in Kali Yuga, Lord Shiva appears as Srikantanatha. Lord Shiva with 18 arms and 5 faces, Panchamukhi, he appeared to Swamiji. And he actually gave Swamiji direct darshan. And that's unusual because in Kali Yuga, Lord Shiva appears as Srikantanatha, just with Trishul, as what we see in all the pictures and all the calendars. Everywhere you see Lord Shiva like that with Parvati and with Ganesh. But in Satyuga, he appears as Swachandanatha. This is written in the scriptures, in the Shastras. So Swachandanatha told Swamiji, this Kali Yuga is a very turbulent time. But there is one mantra and one stotra which will create peace when there's turbulence. And that was because he's also known as Agoranatha. Agoranatha, the Lord of the Agora Shaktis. Okay, so the Agora mantra, Agorebhyo Tagorebhyo Gora Gora Taribhyascha Sarvata Sharva Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudra Rupebhya. It's different from the normal Agora mantra. But Swamiji said that this mantra and the stotra which it accompanies, which is the Bahurapa Garbha Stotra, which is an elaboration of this mantra, and it has text taken from the Swachanda Tantra. He said, this is the most important thing. And for the last so many years, I've been trying to get this played in so many temples. You have some pundits here reciting it very nicely in Nepal. If it says that in the Phala Slokas of that for 10 yojanas, for 80 miles around, if this is recited with devotion, there's peace. Even two enemies that are in conflict, the lion and the elephant, will not be in conflict. Just to be in the vicinity of that. So in Kashmir, we've been, especially because everyone knows about turbulence in Kashmir, we've been getting this played in different temples, in Jammu also. But sometimes it's an uphill struggle because the priest would rather play some bhajans, you know. But some places are now playing this 3 times a day, some in the morning early, usually morning and evening, arti. They play, it's 20 minutes. And it's a very powerful stotra, and it has that purifying effect on the atmosphere.
You're talking about Bahurupa Garbha Stotra.
Bahurupa Garbha Stotra.
Okay, and then because you have talked about Aghora mantra also.
Yes.
So here in Nepal, we have Bhagavan Pasupatinath, and we see 5 faces.
Yes.
Tatpurush Sadyojat, Vamadeva, Aghora, Isana.
Same.
And then from Tantra, Kalagni Rudra also.
Yes,
So in that sense, we have Bhagavan Pasupatinath have 6 faces.
Yes.
So Swachandanath, because we know Bhagavan Pasupatinath is also revered as Swachanda Bhairava.
Yes.
So in Kashmir, is there any such connection with Bhagavan Pasupatinath?
Not that I'm aware of, but there must be, because the text, scholars would tell you that, historians could tell you that. As I said earlier, I'm not a scholar or a historian. Okay, I'm a sadhaka.
Yeah, because you are practicing, so
yes.
You must have seen many.
But Swami Lakshmanjoo, in his own Amriteshvara temple, where he has a Shivalingam and Yoni, he has a small temple outside for Ganesh, Hanuman, one thing there of Atuka Bhairava, also a Natraj. He has these things. He has a picture, a painting of Swachanda Bhairava, because that's described in the Swachanda Tantra. How many harms he has, what the faces are, what is the significance, what are the weapons. Kim Raja, our cameraman here, has done a commentary on that. And it's so, I just have to put that in there because his name, I got a shock when he said his name is Kim Raj also. So that commentary explains that the 18 arms and the weapons are symbolic of the various parts of our own thing. So that Agora mantra, even if a person learns the Agora mantra, Swami said, it will protect them individually. And he used to give it out. From that time that he had that darshan, he would say to everybody, any problem you have, Agora mantra. If you have the ability to listen to or recite the Bahurupa Garbha Stotra, that's that.
There must be some rules like, okay, you cannot tell this Gupta mantra to everybody.
That is there, but at the end of when he explained that, he said, publish this in the world, it'll uplift all mankind. Okay. Because he knew that Kali Yuga, there's turbulent times. And look at the world at the moment.
Yeah. Not only political, economic, and then, all this.
Yes. But this is also turbulence. The play of Shiva.
Yeah.
Always from turbulence, something comes out afterwards. There's shant, there's peace. When everybody wakes up, there's a stotra about Swachanda Bhairava. And it says when people are not waking up, he shakes the world like this. And everybody gets scared. And in that fear they go, what is going on? What's everything worth? And then they go to a spiritual They either pray to Jesus, or they pray to Krishna, they pray to Kali, they pray to whoever their Ishtadevata is. And for some time, people wake up. Sometimes when people don't wake up enough, he really shakes the world. And then everybody goes, whoa. And then he'll even take away all your possessions. Earthquake comes, and like you had here, you know, or a fire or a flood. We can say, what is happening? I don't know. But what has been interesting to me is everywhere else in the world there's drought. But in India and Nepal, there's abundant rain. The rains of Parjanya. So souls want to be born here, they don't want to be born there.
Yeah, like you said, because not only the socio-political and economic turbulence, people have a lot of problem in their personal lives.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So when people are born, they are trained and educated.
Yes.
And the objective is to earn money,
Yes.
big amount of money.
Yes. Yes.
And then collect, gather the amenities and all these,
Yes. Yes.
comfortable, houses, cars, and etc.
Yes.
But we find very less, people motivating towards moksha or
Yes.
towards realization.
Yes.
So, from your personal experience, because you have done sadhana for such a long time, how does a jiva find the way towards Shiva?
It's a very good question, and many people say now, with all the gurus are gone, how do I get initiation? How do somebody come and initiate me, give me a mantra, The truth is, according to Shaivism and the Vijnana Bhairava, if we do 21,600 breaths in a day, we were all initiated at birth.
Yeah.
Everybody was initiated when they were born.
The Diksha mantra is the breath.
They came out, and the first thing, the doctor holds you up, upside down sometimes, slaps you. It's very violent, and you take your first breath. Pranapan. From that moment, you're initiated. Because it's Shiva still inside that.
That makes a deeper sense.
So then, how long it will take? It might be 10 years, 20 years. For me, it was 18 years till I came back to understanding that, something's going on inside me. For some, it might be 40 years, 50 years, 60. It doesn't matter what time. The timing is in the hands of Mahakala, the Lord of Time. It's in the hands of Shiva in that form of Mahakala. So people wake up. And this practice of breath awareness of the breath, runs through all the systems. It's a very big part of Buddhist Tantra, of Tibetan Buddhism. This awareness of breath flowing. It's a very big part of Southern Shaivism. And everybody breathes. You just have to get some direction how to do it. Kashmir Shaivism, the Vijnana Bhairava gives very clear directions how to practice. But in Buddhism, you get clear directions. So that's the universal technique, because everybody's already been initiated. You just have to remember that.
Almost all the culture that is in practice has its own set of instruction to go.
Yes.
If the person is conscious, they'll be able to catch.
Yes.
But the question I'm asking you is that what can you tell people? Like, okay, meditation is must.
Yes.
Regular japa is must. Like pure vegetarian diet is must, etc.
Yes.
So what are the advices that you want to?
The advice is to go by your own feeling. Because some people would listen to this and never even think about it twice.
Yes.
Some people say, there was something in that interview. Maybe I should look at something. Maybe I should increase my yoga, do some pranayama.
Yeah, but in Mahabharata, when Yudhishthira asked questions, so Bhagavan Krishna have asked Bhishma Pitama, yes, I have knowledge, but I don't have experience. So please, you tell Yudhishthira. So because you have been in the sadhana for more than 15 years. It's not a joke.
Yes, yes.
And then you have been steady on your sadhana, and therefore, so people who want to know what a steady sadhana can provide. Yeah.
A steady sadhana is when you have a firm conviction that there is something worthwhile to do in sadhana. There's something, I will get something from it. Originally, it's a selfish thing. I want to achieve more peace of mind. My family drives me crazy. My wife drives me crazy, or whatever it is. My husband drives me crazy. So sit quietly, do some sadhana, and what happens after you go deeply into yourself, when you come out, you open your eyes, everything looks different. It doesn't look so bad. when you're tired and you're just everything looks bad, no matter what. The food is bad, the weather is bad, everything is. But when you're more relaxed, after a good night's sleep, everybody feels good. It's a reason for you to meditate, even just for the physical benefits. But you can start meditation for whatever reason, but there's one serious side effect. And I have to say, there's a serious side effect of meditation for everybody that gets involved very seriously in meditation, and that side effect is called moksha.
Oh yeah.
That side effect is called liberation.
Yes.
You may not have wanted liberation,
No matter they want or not.
but it can come by the grace of Shiva from within you. And when you get liberation, your whole world will be different.
Yeah, in Shankaracharya tradition, the faith, Shraddha, is the most necessary thing. Because for Shraddha, the definition is Guru Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasaha Shraddha.
Yes.
So it means you have to, completely surrender yourself to Guru
Yes.
and the Shastras.
And who is the Guru? I mentioned Somananda, who wrote the Shiva Drishti. The first verse of Shiva Drishti, Asmad Rupa Samavishta, Swatmanatmani Varane, Shiva Karotu Nijaya, Nama Shaktya Tatatmane. Let Shiva, who is inside me, let him bow down to universal Shiva, to the big Shiva that I'm imagining, through his Shakti, through the breath, for the removal of all the bondage and all the problems in my life, which actually are nothing other than Shiva. Shiva is the remover, like through Ganapati. He's also the creator of the obstacles because there's nothing but Shiva. So look at that and see the obstacles may be there pushing me in a certain direction. But the best way is through practice of meditation. Take 20 minutes twice a day. Sit down, even if you have no practice, just be aware of your breath. Do it for 20 minutes and see how you feel afterwards. And it's a universal practice. But if you want to go into it, then the connections will be there. There'll be some reference, I think, in this clip to see, okay, I can read this book. I can go to this website. I can see And the website that I've been with and the person that I was so fortunate to study with was Swami Lakshmanjoo.
Yeah.
The last master of this sacred tradition
in Kashmir,
Yes.
Okay, so actually we received a deep knowledge about Kashmir Shaivism and the practices in Kashmir from you. So it's really great to have you here. And so please have a last conclusion.
To the average person, I would say that no matter your situation, if you're already on the spiritual path, very good, go along with your practice. Be serious about your practice with faith, with shraddha. If you're in a situation where you're really downtrodden, just have this idea that somewhere inside me there's a light, the light of consciousness is shining. And the trick in Shaivism is to remember that you are Shiva. Shiva and Shakti are always there, they're never absent. But we have the choice to ignore them, we have the choice to ignore that, or we have the choice to accept that and do some practice, something to unfold that inner treasure that everybody has. And everybody has it. It's not that it's unique to one particular person, Even your worst enemy has that treasure, but they've completely forgotten it. And right now they're busy driving you crazy. So just take time to withdraw, sit quietly, do some practice, and then you'll see automatically the world around you will change. It doesn't actually change, but your perception of the world changes when you feel more peace within your own heart. It's a universal message to everybody. Every religion, everyone is pointing towards that idea of personal peace, radiating out to the peace for everybody, for all mankind.
Okay, thank you. Namaste.
Thank you for inviting me.